Good morning, friends. Once again, I welcome you all to this e-learning platform of KTHM College. In today's session, we are going to have a look at the summary and analysis of Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of Animal Farm by George Orwell. First, we will have a look at the summary of Chapter 6. During the following year, the animals work harder than ever before. Building the windmill is a laborious business, and Boxer proves himself a model of physical strength and dedication. Napoleon announces that Animal Farm will begin trading with neighboring farms and hires Mr. Whymper, a solicitor, to act as his agent. Other humans meet in pubs and discuss their theories that the windmill will collapse and that Animal Farm will go bankrupt. Jones gives up his attempts at retaking his farm and moves to another part of the country. The pigs move into the farmhouse and begin sleeping in beds, with Squealer excuses on the grounds that the pigs need their rest after the daily strain of running the farm. That November, a storm topples the half-finished windmill. Napoleon tells the animals that Snowball is responsible for its ruin and offers a reward to any animal who kills Snowball or brings him back alive. Napoleon then declares that they will begin rebuilding the windmill that very morning. This is the summary of Chapter 6. Now we'll have the analysis of Chapter 6. When the passing of a year, all of the animals have wholly swallowed Napoleon's propaganda. Despite their working like slaves, the animals believe that everything they did was for the benefit of themselves and not for a pack of idle, thieving human beings. When Napoleon orders that animals will need to work on Sundays, he calls the work strictly voluntary, yet adds that any animal who does not volunteer will have his rations reduced. Thus, Napoleon is able to foster a sense of unity where animals volunteer using the threat of hunger. This transformation of obvious dictatorial practices into seemingly benevolent social programs is another of Napoleon's methods for keeping the animals working hard. The effect of Napoleon's propaganda is also seen in Boxer's unflagging devotion to the windmill. Even when warned by Clover about exerting himself, Boxer can only think, "I will work harder," and Napoleon is always right. The fact that he can only think in slogans reflects his inability to engage in any real thought at all. Slogans such as these are powerful weapons for leaders like Napoleon, who want to keep their followers devoted, docile, and dumb. One of the most effective ways that Napoleon strengthens his rule is his use of politics of sacrifice. Indeed, sacrifice is an often repeated word in the novel, and Napoleon uses it to excuse what he knows others will see as his blatant disregard for the 7 commandments of animalism. For example, when ordering that Animal Farm will engage in trade with human beings and that the hens must sell their eggs, he states that the hens should welcome this sacrifice as their own special contribution towards the building of the windmill. After facing some objections from the animals about trading with humans, Napoleon tells them that they will not have to come into contact with any human beings, since he intended to take the whole burden upon his own shoulders. Like the apples and milk which the pigs pretended not to like in the first place, Napoleon masterfully recast himself as an animal like Boxer, when of course the reader sees that the pig and the horse are complete opposites in their selfishness and selflessness. Of course, if any animal ever hints at seeing through Napoleon's false humility, they will be greeted with the same combination of bleating and growls that faced Snowball in chapter 5. Squealer continues his work of mollifying the animals who object to Napoleon's plans as he figuratively rewrites history when explaining that there never was a resolution against using money or trading and that the animals must have dreamed it. He literally rewrites history when he changes the fourth commandment from no animal shall sleep in a bed to no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. When Clover learns of the two added words, she is naturally suspicious but has been so brainwashed by Napoleon's regime that she concludes that she was mistaken. Squealer's explanation of why the pig sleeps in beds hinges on semantics rather than common sense. A bed merely means a place to sleep in, and a pile of straw is a bed, properly regarded, are examples of his manipulation of language. His most powerful word, of course, is Jones. Whenever he asks, surely none of you wishes to see Jones back, all the animals' questions are dispelled. The destruction of the windmill marks the failure of Snowball's vision of the future. It also allows Orwell to again demonstrate Napoleon's incredible ability to seize an opportunity for his own purposes. Afraid of seeming indecisive and a failure while all the animals stare at the toppled windmill, Napoleon invokes the name of Snowball as Squealer does with Jones. Do you know, he asks, the enemy who has come in the night and overthrown our windmill? Snowball? For the remainder of the novel, Snowball will be used as a scapegoat for all of Napoleon's failings. His commands to begin rebuilding the windmill and shouting of slogans occur because he does not want to give the animals any time in which to consider the plausibility of his story about Snowball. Although he shouts, "Long live Animal Farm," he means "Long live Napoleon." This is the summary of chapter 6. Now we'll have the look at the summary of chapter 7. As the human world watches Animal Farm and waits for news of its failure, the animals struggle against starvation. Napoleon uses Mr. Whymper to spread news of Animal Farm's sufficiency to the human world. After learning that they must surrender their eggs, the hens stage a demonstration that only ends when they can no longer live without the rations that Napoleon had denied them. 9 hens die as a result of the protest. The animals are led to believe that Snowball is visiting the farm at night and spitefully subverting their labor. He becomes a constant and imagined threat to the animals' security, and Squealer eventually tells the animals that Snowball has sold himself to Frederick and that he was in league with Jones from the very beginning. One day in spring, Napoleon calls a meeting of all animals, during which he forces confessions from all those who had questioned him, such as the 4 pigs in chapter 5 and 6 and the 3 hens who led the protest and then has them murdered by the dogs. Numerous animals also confess to crimes that they claim were instigated by Snowball. Eventually, the singing of Beast of England is outlawed and a new song by Minimus, Napoleon's peak poet, is instituted, although the animals do not find the song as meaningful as their previous anthem. Now this is the summary of chapter 7. Now we'll have the analysis of chapter 7. Faced with the realities of farming and his own lack of planning for the winter, Napoleon is forced to deal with a hungry populace and the potentially damaging leaks of such news to the outside world. To surmount these problems, Napoleon metaphorically assumes the role of director and mounts a theatrical production. In terms of this metaphor, Mr. Whymper is the audience whom Napoleon must engage and fool into believing in an illusion. The sheep are actors reciting lines about the rations having been increased, and the empty grain bins filled with sand are the props. Whymper is fooled into thinking that Animal Farm is running smoothly, and Napoleon again demonstrates his judicious use of deception. Ironically, this deceptive theatricality is exactly what Squealer later accuses Snowball of having done with Jones at the Battle of the Cowshed. More deception occurs in the pernicious lies spread about Snowball. Napoleon uses him as a scapegoat for any of the farm's misfortunes, as Hitler did with European Jews as he rose to power. Both leaders understand the public desire to cast blame on an outside source for all their troubles. Squealer claims that the pigs have found documents linking Snowball to Jones are an appeal to the animal's need for proof. Although the non-existent documents are never revealed to them on the grounds that the animals are unable to read them. Like the grain bins filled with sand, Snowball's documents are another ruse used by Napoleon to manipulate the thoughts of those who could end his rule. The animals refuse to believe that the thin walls of the windmill contributed to its collapse, revealing the extent to which they describe to the snowball baiting ideology. Those who actually do threaten Napoleon's rule are dealt with in a swift and brutal fashion. Napoleon calls a meeting of all the animals for the purpose of publicly executing descendants in order to make the others understand what will happen to them should they refuse one of his orders. When the 4 pigs who protested against Napoleon's decision to end the Sunday meetings are called before him, they confess to have been secretly in touch with Snowball in the hopes of receiving some clemency from Napoleon. This is the same technique used by the hens, who likewise are slaughtered. The number of other animals who confess to Snowball inspired crimes, however, suggests the degree to which paranoia has gripped the animals, who now feel the need to confess things as slight as stealing 6 ears of corn or urinating in the drinking water. The scene of these confessions echoes the Salem witch trials, where seemingly rational people suddenly confessed to having comported with Satan as a way of revealing their psychological torments. Afraid that their crimes will be discovered, the animals confess them because they are unable to stand the strain of their guilt. The terrible atmosphere of fear and death that now categorizes Animal Farm is discussed by Boxer and Clover at the end of the chapter. Boxer naturally concludes that he must work harder to atone for some fault in ourselves, like the confessing animals. He wants to purge himself of non-existent evils. Clover, however, does gain a small amount of insight as she looks at the farm from the knoll and considers that the terrors she has seen were not in her mind when old Major spoke of his dream. However, since she lacked the words to express these ideas, her possibly revolutionary thoughts are never brought out. With Snowball gone, none of the animals are encouraged to read, for the same reasons that slaves throughout history were similarly deprived. Napoleon's outlawing Beast of England is his next step in assuming total control, fearful that the song might stir up the same rebellious feelings felt by the animals the night Major taught it to them. Napoleon replaces it with a decidedly blander song that focuses on the responsibility of the animals to protect the farm rather than to overthrow its leaders. Animal Farm, never through me shalt thou come to harm. Of course, there is no debate about this decision, since the sheep who accompany Squealer effectively end all talk of it with their in-season bleating. Nothing at Animal Farm will ever be the same since the blood of animals has been shed by their own kind. This is the analysis of chapter 7 of Animal Farm. In the next lecture, we are going to have a look at summary and analysis of chapter 8. Thank you.